Good afternoon. We're back with more Marvel Champions, and today will be Ironheart versus Ronan the Accuser on Expert difficulty. Continuing our Ironheart Hero Spotlight. And the more I play Ironheart, the more I realize how strong she is in the end game. But compared to our other S plus tier heroes, she's pretty weak in the early game, and this results in perhaps a lower win rate than the other S plus tier heroes have, with the exception of Vision. I would say that for the really difficult content, expect to win with Ironheart, I don't know, 1 in 4 times or so. The 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5. The good news is that when you lose fairly early because her early game is what's weak. And when you win, it's dominating. So if you get past the early game, then victory is pretty much guaranteed. If you get to stage 3 and you have a reasonable HP total, you're not like in dire danger of dying, you're gonna win. It's just a matter of time. So winning, it's just a matter of getting the right setup, the right hand, the right cards coming out, so you can build up these progress counters fairly quickly. And if you can do that, then you're going to be just fine. And if not, then you'll lose, and you'll probably lose against scenarios like this, around 75 to 80% of the time. And how does that compare to heroes like Star-Lord or Doctor Strange? My experience with Doctor Strange was that he had little to no trouble with Magneto. I think against Ronan, the win rate was maybe 50%, maybe 40%. And against Venom Goblin, he had more trouble, maybe 20-25%, similar to Ironheart. With Star-Lord, probably similar, maybe a little bit less than Doctor Strange, but 40% I think is a good ballpark for a win rate with Star-Lord. And with Spider-Ham, you'll defeat everything on Expert on the first try, basically. Spider-Ham being a hero I haven't spotlighted yet, but will soon. So, we're getting set up against Ronan with Ironheart fairly quickly. We got Tony Stark AI, we got 5 counters on her. We got one way or another, and the side schemes in Ronan are fairly forgiving, which is a really helpful thing. Which means you can actually use one way or another to make a number of different heroes viable against Ronan, which is nice because compared to like Venom Goblin, the side schemes are pretty forgiving with Ronan. So we got into phase 2 now. Stage 2 with Ironheart, and we get out Ronnie Williams. The board state is okay, more or less stable. And we'll flip to Alter Ego here. Pretty much the first time you flip to Alter Ego, if you're playing solo against Ronan, he's going to advance to stage 2. Just count on that if you flip to Alter Ego. If in stage 2 of the main scheme you have a little bit more leeway, you can flip to Alter Ego if it's low threat, and you probably won't lose, though occasionally you still will. So that side scheme, or that master plan, is going to add 4 to Cannonade and Superior Tactics, means Cannonade's probably going to be on the board for a while. Genius is a very good draw because it means we can play Moon Girl for a full 3 draw. And we can use Ronnie Williams for a progress counter. Gonna play Nick Fury and draw 3. Probably use Moon Girl, Nick Fury, and a flyover. Could potentially use one way or another. Gotta flip to hero form first. But that's gonna happen this turn, so it doesn't matter too much. Probably discard Surveillance Team for the Science Resource Progress counter. that should be a surveillance team one way, not one way or the other, because you have to do it before using one way or another because it's a hero action. So it just changes which card needs to be discarded. But since it got discarded anyway to pay for things, it doesn't matter. Probably need to do some thwarting on superior tactics. Get it down to something more manageable. Superior tactics does have to be cleared because we have to take possession of the Power Stone in order to be able to remove threat from Take What Is Mine, stage 2 of the main scheme. And the only way that Ironheart actually has to do that kind of damage, you have to deal 3 damage, and the only way she has to do that is a photon beam. So it's not the easiest thing with her, because it has to be an attack of 3, and her progress counter attacks don't count as attacks, nor do photon blasters because they're not labeled as an attack, which is a good thing when you're talking about avoiding retaliate. It's not a good thing when you're talking about trying to take control of the Power Stone. So I'm just checking what side schemes are still in the deck. I have memorized which side schemes are in this deck, and I spotted all 5 either on the board or in the encounter deck, so I know one way or another is not going to be playable. And Photon Beam, which will give 2 progress counters and get us up to stage 3 levels. But because I photon blasted the enemy instead of the boss, I can't take control of the Power Stone yet, which means I can't thwart from the main scheme or remove threat from the main scheme. So we move into phase 3 here, and we'll just use Ironheart's thwart on Cannonade. And then draw 6. So we're in good shape now. The board is formidable with Rogue Vessel, with Kree combat armor, which isn't that big of a deal because we don't do that much damage by attacks. So there's an overkill attack that takes out the toughness. Single-minded Fury, we don't have the Power Stone. Kree Lieutenant, Hull Breach, alrighty. And then we should take 1 damage from Rogue Vessel, which I'll realize in just a moment. We can get Skilled Investigation out and draw a card right away. Hopefully get some damage on the Kree Lieutenant. So there I mark off the 1 damage from the Rogue Vessel. Do we have enough damage to take out the Kree Lieutenant? I think we will with help of allies, perhaps. I'm going to play Avengers Mansion, though. Draw a card. Use Tony Stark AI. And we'll keep Stroke of Genius because we can't actually use Flyover until we take control of the Power Stone. Basically, I have 3 turns, or 2 turns to find Photon Beam again, or else I'm going to lose. The board setup is very strong. There's 2 Photon Beams, so no problem. We can use one of those to take possession of the Power Stone and then get that threat off of the main scheme, as long as we don't get an advance here. If we get an advance, we'll lose. Unless, well, if we need to get an advance and a use stand accused, because we can cancel one or the other. So if we get another one, okay, it's fine. So just discard a random card. And we're all good. Take one more damage from Rogue Vessel, which I'll realize in just a moment. Probably keep Stroke of Genius over Genius. Stroke of Genius is really good. I don't know, that's debatable. With 2 photon beams and a propulsion jets, maybe Genius is the better option to make sure that I have everything. So there are resources for everything. There I marked off the Rogue Vessel damage or photon beaming. For 3 damage, it's -1 due to Kree combat armor, but that's enough to take control of the Power Stone. And now I can go ahead and get rid of threat from Take What Is Mine. So we'll play... No, not going to play an ally. Okay. Means I'm just going to lose Power Stone again right away, but I do have another photon beam, so it's probably fine. Oh, gonna flip to Alter Ego, okay. Discard Wasp. And so 6 threat on the main scheme from 1 Alter Ego flip. So you really can't flip to Alter Ego unless you're able to remove most, if not all, of the threat from the main scheme. And even then, it's risky. If you get 2 you stand accused in a row, or you stand accused in an advance, you typically lose in this one. Another key to this one always is not getting fanaticism. You pretty much lose every time you get fanaticism. So I'll want to deal with Lucia, the Nemesis, but not too difficult. She's only got 4 HP. We'll use a progress counter to take out her toughness. Photon beam. And we'll use Helicarrier for arrows, and then we got a flyover as well. Which we'll use. Add another 2 progress counters. Skilled Investigation will draw a card. Propulsion Jets. There, I realize I forgot Rogue Vessel from last round. And we're going to use progress counters there to take out the guy. 1 progress counter because it lined up perfectly. Could have used photon blasters though and saved the progress counter and reduced the amount of time before I can set up an OTK by, I don't know, tiny amount. But the photon blasters and the progress counter damage isn't reduced by Kree combat armor because it reduces damage taken from attacks, and neither photon blasters or the progress counters are labeled as attacks, though we have the resources to deal with Kree combat armor if I needed to. It's just, it gets 3 resources of the same type. It's doable at this point. So we're managing the threat relatively easily. Victory is all but assured at this point. Just need to build up the progress counters necessary for an OTK. And getting pretty close to that now. I may have enough. So here I was just thinking, do I want to pay for things differently? No. Just leave it. So playing Wasp instead of using Photon Beam so that I'll have a chump blocker. So I'll go for the victory probably next round. Got 8 counters at 16 damage plus the photon damage. Blasters is 19. So that cyborg deck doesn't do anything, but it does surge. It's a minion attachment. And that cycles the encounter deck, so we got a boost icon now. That also opens up one way or another as a playable card again. There's an advance. And I'm thinking I'll just let it go through. I think this is the last turn, so I think it's safe enough to let it go through. And I'll save my Milano use for an attack so that I don't lose control of the Power Stone or something like that. So, go in the player turn. We've got Photon Beam, we've got Stroke of Genius, we got lots of resources. Should be no problem getting the OTK. So that adds 3 and draws a card thanks to Stroke of Genius. So 2 tokens will get us into phase 3. Gonna draw with Moon Girl. Get out Nick Fury as well. And I'm thinking about whether I want to use damage or draw. Just gonna draw. And with that draw, that's gonna do it. We got the damage to finish it off. So move into phase 2. And we'll use 1 progress token to remove the toughness. 3 damage with the photon beam, not 4 because of the Kree combat armor. And then we have 12 progress tokens, so we can just spend 11 and deal 22 damage, and that will end the scenario. So, as I said, there is... the main challenge is just getting set up. And once you get set up, victory is all but assured. And you can OTK at your convenience, really. You just stay in stage 2 until you build up the progress tokens to take out whatever villain you're fighting all in one swoop, which avoids retaliate or any nasty stage 3 abilities, which a lot of bosses have. Either they have stat buffs or some new ability that increases the difficulty, or retaliate, or they have stalwart instead of steady or something like that. So you can just avoid all of that by simply saving up the progress tokens in stage 2 so that you can just blast them down in stage 3. We'll make one final note. There was a moment that looked a little odd to me in the video where I moved arrows back to the hand here and then discarded Wasp. I was just changing the way that I was paying for propulsion jets so that I would end up with a science resource to add a progress token instead of the useless Wasp resource. So that was bugging the back of my brain as to why that looked weird anyway. That's why. So Ironheart, definitely an S+ tier hero. Like her a lot. She's a lot of fun to play. I think she's probably even better in multiplayer than in solo, because multiplayer you have a little bit more leeway to set up because your teammate can cover your early game weakness, and then Ironheart could theoretically, take down a Ronan the Accuser in 2-player mode all by herself if you just save up the progress tokens. You and your teammate can just hang out in stage 2 until Ironheart's got 20 progress or whatever, and then down stage 3 all in one go. She's really quite ridiculous, and I like Justice for her because of One Way or Another. I think One Way or Another is really good, and that card single-handedly elevates Justice to be at least equivalent to leadership. I'm going to do another tier list for the different aspects. Well, top 10 cards list at least, after I've done the hero spotlights, because my opinions on the aspects have changed a little bit, having playtested so many different heroes against difficult scenarios. So, anyway, thank you for watching.